The Open is over, and many of you are asking, now what? If you made the top 10%, congratulations, you've earned it. Our RX Path will be prepping for quarterfinals over the next 2 weeks. We will provide you with a comprehensive peaking structure along with detailed warm-ups, pacing plans, and tip videos for each of the quarterfinal workouts. And this will only be delivered to our TDT Compete athletes. This will not be public facing. For those who did not qualify inside of the top 10%, our intermediate path will start a 3-week base building program that will help you build a foundation for your off season, where we work on strength and gymnastics development protocols so you can reach your goal of making the top 10% next year. Masters athletes, we have 4 weeks before the age group quarterfinal, which means we are in full swing prepping you for your biggest competition of the year. We have included structured strength and CrossFit progressions that will lead us directly into the quarterfinal weekend, including a quarterfinal simulation with our entire Masters community this weekend. And our elite path, if you have made semifinals, we will write a personalized program for you to properly peak you for the week you're competing. Come join TDT Compete right now. Go to trainingthinktank.com. All right, so now that we can actually direct our attention to what we were supposed to talk about on the podcast,
baby.
Quarterfinals. I wanted to start, though, with those that didn't make it, because we have a lot of people that follow or watch our podcast, listen to the podcast, that maybe were right on the cut line and didn't make it, or just are doing CrossFit for fun. So before we dive into what we're doing for quarterfinals, which I think is important, what would you tell those athletes that are serious about the sport but didn't make it? Now they're trying to figure out what to do in the offseason.
Yeah, so I think there's 2 groups of that in that. Is like you're kind of close and you've been doing it for a little period of time, or you're really far away. Maybe you just started, or you're a year or 2 into it and you're in the 50th or 60th percentile and you still don't have skills. So I'd say for the first group, the group that's kind of close, one option is to just not take your deload just yet, train as if you made it, and do quarterfinals, because you could use that as a barometer for where your fitness is, and you don't need to pay to register, but you get more data. So right now you have 3 data points on you versus the field. If you do the next workouts, you might get another 5 workouts. So you've over doubled the amount of information you have about what do I actually need to work on in this sport if I want to be competitive. So that'd be one option. The other option, if you didn't, and you're farther away and doing quarterfinals is out of your realm because you can't do the higher level skills and the heavier weights, then I would say take an off season and actually process what happened. What did you do well? Where did you break down? How did you do well on your repeats? What do you need to get better at? Maybe how did your nutrition plan go? What's your body composition? Like basically, like the old adage, they say if you ask Abraham Lincoln to chop down a tree in 6 hours, he'll spend 4 hours sharpening the axe or whatever that is. I think that's what people should be doing, is figuring out, well, what's the next step? Instead of just like jumping right back in and doing more and more Metcons. Some people, a lot of people in that, let's say 70th percentile and lower, need strength and skills and like maybe muscle mass. Like going into just a general CrossFit training program for that group would maybe be a bad idea. So figuring out how do you take a little bit of time to get your head right and then get back into an off-season training program now. Because we see our athletes, or any of these high-level athletes that are successful at the top, you talk to them about their training. It's like, how long have you just been consistently training? And like Travis had to sit out this year's Open. It's the first time in a decade that he wasn't continuously training hard. So if most of the beginner athletes are down here in year 1, year 2, year 3, it's like you can't take that much time off. You don't need an off season like a pro might need an off season. Just take a little bit of time, process, reflect, make a game plan, and then get into an off season that builds skills, builds muscle mass, builds movement quality, builds strength, and maybe gives you a little bit of a break of the open-y, CrossFit-y type, classic CrossFit pain cave that people love.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. Most people, there's kind of, going back to the 2-person example, there are 2 people that I see that want to get back into it. The person that's just like, I need to get a better engine because they feel like they weren't good at certain workouts. But in reality, it's like, no, you were bottlenecked by, let's say, the skills. Ring muscle ups, you were bottlenecked by the pull up because you're not strong enough. You were bottlenecked by the handstand push-ups in workout 3. And they just go in and they start doing Metcons all the time. But then a year from now, you're still not any better. You're still being bottlenecked by those things. So the reason I bring that up is most people maybe don't need a long off season, but they do need structured training that's getting them better at the things that actually are their limiters. And so to to give kind of the people that are watching or listening an example of this, in our intermediate program in TDD Compete, they're going to take a deload this next week during, obviously we're just finishing the open, and then they're jumping into a very basic foundational skill program where the focus is, can we get all of our gymnastic skills better? Like for those that don't have ring muscle ups, we're going to get you ring muscle ups. You don't have handstand push-ups, we're going to get you handstand push-ups, so on and so forth. You name the skill. And at the same time, we're layering in, or really it's the base of everything, true absolute strength work, because most people just aren't strong enough to support the sport that's tested.
Yeah. I mean, if we just break down the 3 workouts that came out for most regular people that didn't qualify, that first group, the first workout, the row from a conditioning standpoint didn't really matter. You could phone that in. There was no time frame on it, and like going slower didn't really kill you. So engine wasn't a huge limiter. Toes to bar for most people at a lower level is almost a strength limitation and a movement limitation. Their hamstrings are too tight, their grip's not strong enough, their core compression is kind of weak. They might be able to do a couple, but then by the end they're doing singles and they're completely broken down. So there's like gymnastic skill as the first limitation that shows up in first workout. Then the wall balls was kind of just like a throwaway movement in my eyes. I feel like anyone can do that. Power cleans, some people got bottlenecked because it was too heavy, right? Like it's just, they couldn't cycle it. So there's strength and skill as the big limiter. And then muscle ups. That bottlenecked anybody who's not finishing in the top 10%.
Yep.
So from workout 1, we have skill, strength, skill. 2 skills and a strength. Workout 2, the biggest limitation that I think I saw was, I mean, it could be general engine, but it seemed like maybe upper body pulling strength for a lot of people is finishing the pull-up, and then they had to do a burpee and then do a kipping pull-up just to get up.
Which is just slower.
Yeah, which is slower. So I'd say there's some engine in that, some general engine, but also just, again, another strength/gymnastic skill that gets added to it. And then this last workout.
Well, and the thruster. So you're
the 1 rep max. Yeah, so there's another strength.
Yeah.
And then workout number 3, I would say, is almost 100% dictated by skill or strength, right? Like it's the strict handstand push-ups. You can't do double unders, or you get to a bar that's too heavy for you. So of the 3 workouts that came out in the open, we have a strength and skill component basically from every single workout as the limiter. And then people somehow get the logic that they're like, I need to do a classic Metcon every day because I wasn't breathing well. Right. I'm like, well, none of that is going to fix you not being able to handstand push up or not being able to muscle up.
Yeah. So this time of year is a great opportunity for you to identify those limiters. So I would go back to take the next week and maybe write notes down for each workout. What actually held you back? Yeah. And then jump into a program that is actually working on those things and has a plan for the entire year. Like one of the things that I love about what Mia does in intermediate is they have a plan that's already written out for the all of 2023 into 2024, which starts with basic gymnastic skills and then gymnastic skills under some fatigue, usually just like cyclical fatigue, then gymnastic skills under CrossFit fatigue, and then true CrossFit work. It's like this progression that goes through the year so that when the open does come around, you can finish with the ring muscle ups or you can do strict handstand push-ups in a workout.
Yeah, for sure. I've never seen anybody other than maybe like really, really gifted elites, but even them get good gymnastic skills or good weightlifting capabilities or good strength without being on a program that structures those things, right? Like a lot of accessory work in gymnastics or a lot of technique work on weightlifting. So if people just follow like a 30 or 60 minute thing and it's mostly just a basic strength and a Metcon, you're probably going to show up every year at the open and be under quarterfinals, like under the top 10%, because you just never going to get those skills that come out, you know, at the open level.
Yeah. So we would encourage you, jump in a program, make sure that you're starting on those things now. Don't wait until January.
I think there's a lot of people who say they want this stuff. They're like, I want to get better. I want these skills. I want to improve. But then their actions show that they didn't really want to. Yeah, maybe they did, but that, you know, their actions show that they're not going to. What do you say to those people who it's just like, yeah, I mean, maybe it sounds good to say I want to do these things, but really they do just want a Metcon and go about their day. But they, you know, in their head, they've convinced themselves they want this. What do you say to those people?
Yeah, I mean, my thought would just be, don't lie to yourself. I don't think there's anything wrong with not wanting to be competitive or not getting into a certain level of competition threshold. But when your expectation is to make it and you're not doing the things that actually would get you there, that's kind of where I have a problem. It's either like, hey, you need education to understand that you're going to be frustrated every year because this just isn't.
Yeah, I was going to say, it seems like it's going to just stress you out. Yeah, like when you could just take that whole burden off and enjoy your training.
Yeah, either just say like, hey, I love Metcons and I want some organized structure to them, or no structure and just walk in and have fun and not hurt. or I want to be competitive, and then you have to kind of do those things in a structured, progressive way.
Yeah.
You would agree?
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I've been there too, where you say something.
No, I think
and
it's
you don't do
anything
it.
in life.
Yeah.
You know, you have a lot of things you want, and sometimes you do
But
it, sometimes you don't.
if you legitimately want to reach your goals, you need to have some structure in your life, and you need to have accountability. So a community around you, I think, helps, and then having coaches that know what they're talking about also can be just such a huge positive in that journey.
Hope you enjoyed that clip of the Corpus Animus Podcast. To hear the full episode where we talk about our thoughts on the Open, quarterfinal predictions, what to do after the Open if your season just ended, and what to do if you made it to quarterfinals, check out the audio version on all major podcast providers or peep the other clips here on YouTube.